It's Scarlett in the top right. And, of course, from America, the man to beat. Possibly the best foreigner in the history of StarCraft. It is Neeb. And we're on Mech Depot in ZERG versus Protoss to start off a series. Mech Depot, just the sheer size, the rush distance, it's not too far directly between the players, but there are these sets of rocks in the way that just make it so difficult to actually get to your opponent early on. So you'll see either a lot of really hardcore cheeses or quick 3-base kind of greedier plays, just because going all the way around takes so long. And Neeb, remember, I haven't seen these games, guys. I know how this tournament went. I know how this series went, but these were some of the only Neeb games I didn't watch. So this is all me looking at it with fresh eyes. But Neeb has a tendency to just rely on solid micro and solid macro. That's really, it sounds like a cop-out to say. But what I mean is he'll do builds that everybody's seen before, and they've had possibly Neeb do to them. We're talking about the Archon drop, the Glaive Adept opener, Oracle openers in the third base. These are the three most popular, I would say, with pretty standard follow-ups with a quick third, and then you go into Immortals and Archons and Storm. Every once in a while you throw that Mass Oracle in. But just because you know they're coming doesn't mean they're not going to do damage, or they're not going to essentially just end the game in and of their own. So we'll have to see what Neeb does decide on. Scarlett, a little bit more wild when it comes to the build order. So you might see a quick 3-base. You might see even like a quick 4-base. You don't always see just the straight standard speedlings into Hydra Bane or anything like that. But I don't think it's unlikely either. So Neeb does have his Cyber finished. He's about to have 100 gas. And now we see, is it going to be a Twilight Council to kick things off? No, a Mothership Core, actually, early on. I wonder if there's anything he scouted that indicated this. Maybe he feels a little bit more threatened. But the Mothership Core this early could mean he wants to take a third really early on and have basic defenses because you don't have time to get Glaive to depths or anything like that. Usually Neeb and Protoss is in general out for their tech before the Mothership Core in order to be able to get that started. Because usually early on you don't need the Mothership Core right off the bat because you have a wall to stop Zerglings. And, of course, just having a handful of Adepts can deal with early Ling drops. We'll have to see. Looks like that is going to be the case. Neeb is opting for the quick third. He's got a sentry behind. This is about as bare bones as you can ever get. A single gateway. No tech besides the Mothership Core and a sentry. Not even a hard wall. If Scarlett had just happened to make 20 Zerglings an attack for no reason, that it could potentially, it probably wouldn't, but it could potentially, it would at least stop the third base. Of course, Neeb is too good for that. And so is Scarlett. Not going to rely on that complete and total gamble. But the pylon is positioned. He's tucked an Adept inside here. He knows he has limited warp-ins. With a single gateway, believe it or not, you only have one warp-in. I did the math. And another gate behind. We should be seeing a Twilight Council soon enough in order to complement this. I'd be surprised if we didn't. But yeah, that little pylon placement tucked away and also with the possible Mothership Core support. A sentry will tickle down the balloon in the main. Scarlett, on the other hand, going for the lair, adding on an Evo chamber, but drones. This looks like it's going to go into a Hydra Ling Bane. The Robo was scouted, correct? Oh, okay, the Robo was just now scouted. The lair is just now finishing. There are 4 gases. Will we see a Spire? I'd love to see a Spire, but Hydra Ling Bane is kind of tried and true. Thank you, Chewy Tal, for the sub as well. Thank you for joining us. Oh, yeah, there it is. The +1 melee. The Hydra is done. Where is it going? It's going in the main. A hallucinated Phoenix is on track to scout it immediately. And Scarlett is just trying to beat Neeb as his own game. She's sat back. She's decided, I'm going to macro it up. Get as many drones out as possible. Get as much creep spread because this is one of the few games where Neeb isn't putting on any sort of aggression. There's going to be creep spread about as far as she can ever get it, and she's possibly the best creep spreader in the world. So even with one queen, this creep is going to be maximized to a ridiculous extent. And there's the kicker. The infestation pit at the corner. Thank you, Hitman Harris. Give him some W's as well. Neeb moving out with a recall push. Something happened there, but we get to blaze right past it. But this is essentially just to get as much done as possible and then recall out. Use a few force fields, deny a little bit of creep. It's timed out with the observer. Just a very... Now this is important. This is a very important part of the game to talk about in Protoss versus ZERG in every matchup. This is essentially when both players have to decide what they're going to commit to. Because this is going to be obvious to Scarlett that this push is not intended to kill her. She knows that this push is 100% focused on the recall. Just get as much as you can, clear out a little bit of creep, maybe pressure a fourth base, has no intention to do real damage. So how do you respond as a ZERG player to this? Do you just overwhelm units? You try to crush it and go across the map for counter damage? Do you do as little as possible and just barely hold it off and then tech up behind? It's a really hard decision because even though you can easily deal with this push, there's not even a warp prism, so it's just going to be 4 sentries, 3 adepts without glaives, and an immortal. A few force fields, and suddenly you're in a really dicey position losing units. So how Scarlett responds to this, and the fact Neeb is obviously following up with tech and now adding on a bunch of gateways, this is designed to throw Scarlett off and allow Neeb to, I don't know if he wants to get his 4th, or if he's looking for a follow-up 3-base timing. He's still building probes, by the way. He's at 60. He hasn't taken the gas on the 3rd. So after this push, whether Neeb takes the gases on the 3rd and or goes for a 4th, or if he continues adding on gateways, will kind of decide the direction this game goes. Alright, +1 attack. What is the Twilight Council build? Glaved Adepts. Okay. And here are the force fields. He locks down, shuts down the 4th. This is exactly what Neeb wanted, and he's going to get it. Slows down the 4th base, slows down the production, denies the creep spread, gets in, gets out, gets happy about it. Alright. More gateways are being added. There's a Dark Shrine instead of a Templar Archives. That's a key point. He's not taking the gases at this base. Not yet. There we go. But this is just a bunch more gateways. Scarlett's going to opt for the Swarm Host. But this means Neeb's going for a power push here. He didn't go for charge. He didn't go for a Templar Archives. He wants to put on even more pressure. He doesn't want to sit back. Does he know about the infestation pit? He doesn't. But he knows he denied a 4th base, which means the unit count is limited. So even if Scarlett is just punching out units, she doesn't necessarily have the larva to overwhelm the Protoss army. Now, the Swarm Hosts, the longer they're on the field and popping off locusts, the better they are. But Neeb is not given even a second of delay. The Swarm Hosts ideally get across, they pressure the 3rd, maybe even take out a Nexus, and then they come back and potentially defend. But Neeb's already knocking on the front door. He's already got glaives, and look at this time. Look at this. Glaives and +1 are 5 seconds off. This base is 3/4 of the way finished. The Swarm Hosts aren't able to do anything. This timing is impeccable. And Neeb's going to show up, and now you got to make a decision if you're Scarlett. She doesn't have Bane speed. She has to bring the Swarm Host back. And half the value of Swarm Host is that first wave of locusts, ideally taking your opponent by surprise. There goes the 4th. The Swarm Hosts are revealed. The DTs are out, and these Swarm Hosts did not bring detection with them. Adepts are killing Swarm Hosts. This is very bad. More Swarm Hosts are scouted out over here. Even that's unnecessarily cute micro. But this is a huge commitment of army supply on the other side. Even if Neeb... Yeah, there's going to be overcharges here. I think Neeb has a... The Swarm Host walked by the watchtower, by the way, to point that out. There's enough force fields to segment off this area. There you go, 1, 2. Will he opt for the other side? You disgusting Protoss. That was every single point of energy he had for that. He has no energy for any force fields left. He has a perfect Guardian Shield and 6 perfect force fields, exact number of energy that he could have potentially had. He has no more force fields. You disgusting Protoss. But he's just, there's a funnel. He's funneling these mainlings. He spreads out to the back. The drones are off the line against Glaved Adepts, another Warpin. Let's take a look at how Neeb does his hotkeys. I wanna go back and I wanna go to Neeb's perspective about that. I wanna see what Neeb is doing. And we're gonna go to normal time, which is about 25% slower than real time. So it's gonna be a bit slower than he's playing. But at this point, Neeb, he sees the swarm host on this side. He's now making a conscious decision. We're going for the attack. I'm not coming back to defend. Moves the DTs along. They can't do any more damage to the swarm host. He's sending him into the net. He knows that the army is going to be committed on this other side. Building an immortal back at home, reinforcing with a pylon. So he already has an idea. The army has to be at the third. The DTs are going towards the net. They'll probably get damage done, but he's probably not even... He has him on a hotkey, by the way. He has him on 3. He has his Warp Prism on 9. He might have 9 and 0 re-hotkeyed to some, like, another, like, spacebar or something. I don't know. But he has the Mothership Core and the Warp Prism hotkeyed just away from his army. And he actually uses Gateway hotkeys. That's interesting. Well, we will see. He's even splitting the DTs off. We see this. Those are some mouse splits there, is what he's doing. Hits the overcharges in between the force fields. Wait, I need to see what he's selecting. I'm going to go back a couple seconds and see what he's selecting here. These are all mouse selections. He actually moved his camera back there a little bit, because he didn't want to switch hotkeys to the Warp Prism hotkey, it looks like. He can just pop the overcharges. And then the Warpins come up. He just shift-clicked those Warpins. He might have done it while he was warping in, but he shift-clicked those into his control group as well. So, by the way, this DT has 12 kills. There was a DT here that just got killed. All of that. 32 drones died in that entire exchange. So, the key points. Neeb knew where the main army was going to be. He knew where any potential harass was going to be. And he made sure not only did he have defense, he pressured on offense, but he also had a secondary option. Like, if this attack hadn't gone quite as well, though I'm sure he was very confident it was going to go well, he still has the DTs doing damage. So he gave himself 2 options for damage and made sure there was only one option for him to take damage, and he defended it. So 1, 2, 3, nailed every point. That's game. That's game. He's pretty good. Game 2 was on Ascension to Ire. Alright, let's go in again. Scarlett and Neeb on Ascension Ire. We'll have to see. That was a little bit of a different style there. That was specifically for Mech Depot. The quick 3 base on most other maps would be hard to get away with, just because it's a closer attack timing. But on Mech Depot, going for the quick 3 base with the Mothership Core instead of the Tech First, that was a little bit of an alternative build out of Neeb. I don't think I've ever seen him use that at least on any other maps before. I probably am wrong, of course, but that seems to be very specific to the map. Whereas he has a couple other builds that are more interchangeable. This is probably a Stargate or Twilight Council map as opposed to the quick 3-base into, like, Immortal Sentry timing into, like, 75 more gates and winning, right? Alright. A Nexus first. Another little bit of a mix-up. And then immediately the gate behind. But a Nexus first. Now, the thing about a Nexus first is, if you go hatch first as a ZERG player, you have to go all in to punish it. If you do want to punish it. It's usually a lot safer to just get your war economy up on the other side. Of course, that can be uncomfortable if they're harassing with Glaive to Depths or an Oracle or something. But if you do want to try to pressure this, it does require you to cut a lot of drones, because by the time they get a wall up and a mothership core, and if they get any scout of what you're doing, even though they did go for the Nexus first, they can probably have the tech out in time. Alright, the drone, the probe comes in and steals a little bit of gas and information. And Scarlett, not knowing about the CC first, she's just going to go for the third hatchery for similar reasons as to why Nexus first works out. It's just a pretty safe map to do so. There's a lot of open areas. There's not big choke points to worry about. At least too early on, and the rush distance isn't the shortest. It's really neither here nor there. I'm putting a lot of detail into, like, well, the map is what's dependent on going for a third hatch. There are players like Scarlett who would just go for a third hatch before the pull finishes on almost every map, no matter what. So, alright, the Stargate coming on. We'll have to see. Gateway. We had 2 gateways on. This is actually me trying to learn how to do this build, because the Stargate opener, I feel, is a lot better overall than just straight up opening with a Twilight, or even for the Archon drops. Okay, he goes 3 gateways, no mothership core yet. He has the gas, but he wants it for the Oracle right off the bat. But I feel Twilight Council openers can be very strong, but they don't have as much utility. If you go for the Stargate and you go for an Oracle early on, you have vision, you have potential detection, you can actually kill workers for a little commitment, and you can potentially kill overlords with... Is this... Oh, he added a robo, okay. Interesting. This Adept actually getting caught.
Yes, just as I deserve.
How do you ask a probe to make you a salad? Protoss my salad, haha.
You know why your mother charges a lot? Because she's a protostitute. Alright, so the Oracle gonna get deflected. Hey, Phoenix, immediately afterwards. What is this? No, does this actually do what I think it does? It freezes the eggs while building. How did I not know that? Well, that's something right there. I guess you're more likely... That's one way to deny mining, is to freeze the larva. That's quite a play. But also a warp... Now, I want to talk about the way Neeb plays Protoss, and this is what annoys me a lot of the time when I watch games of players of this caliber. Do you have any idea how hard it is to be on top of your Oracle micro, your Warp Prism micro, and make sure your build doesn't get screwed up at home, and you have everything in walls and you're building probes? Like, this isn't checkers. This isn't chess. This is like 4th dimensional hyper backgammon right now.
Yes, yes. Just as I deserve.
What do you call a zealot that works out? A Protoss.
Did she just spell it out? Why do you see so many phoenixes at the gym? Because they have to practice lifting. Alright. The Oracle gonna come in. And once again, this is a really finesse-oriented build. He does... Wait, is that charge? There is no glaives. Alright. So we pretty much skipped the Immortal phase of the game and gone straight into the Templar Archon. And the Warp Prism is going to be used to tie the units down at home. And once again, Neeb has kind of skipped a certain phase of the game you would usually not skip. And that phase of the game would be the kind of mid-game, like Adept Glaives, Harass, or Adepts in the War Prism, or starting to build Immortals. He's intentionally skipped this because he feels confident that he's going to be able to get enough damage done with the Archon drop and tie enough units at home that he doesn't need to have these basic things to hold some sort of pressure. Oh my god! What are you doing? He's just warping in like... They almost have charge done. This is a bit... Yeah, this is... a bit ambitious out of Neeb, but Archons are almost unstoppable, so... No, don't tell me this is how it ends. Does he have another warp-in? This is starting to get a little disgusting.
Yes. Just as I deserve.
Marines walk into a bar and ask the bartender where's the counter. The bartender says there is no counter, #Hero Marine.
Well, that bartender was obviously withholding information, because if he was being honest, he would have told you that the counter was outside in the storm. This is getting disgusting, by the way. This is, one, super hard to do, and two, ridiculous when you do it right. And GG, that's it. Like... I don't have much to say about that build. Like, the way Neeb did it makes complete sense. I was a little bit distracted as we were going over this, but like, he just started warping in on a Warp Prism, and then he started winning. And if your opponent is rushing straight up to Hydras, like Hydraling Bane, and they just suddenly don't really have any Roaches or really that many Banelings or that many Hydras, like, you don't expect a bunch of Zealots to be warping into your base. This is because Neeb skipped a second Oracle. He never went for any Immortals. He has no upgrades. He's just starting his Forge. Like, he skipped 3 things that would normally delay another 30, 45 seconds, which is enough time to get like 10 Hydras out, or make more Banelings, or have another round of Zerglings. But he skipped all that and immediately slammed in this timing, which I just ripped through everything. That's pretty disgusting. I'm disgusted. All right. I mean, in a good way, but that was pretty bad. Good luck emulating that. All right. We're in game 3, and Neeb is up 2-0. Oh, that's the song. I was like, is that the ambient sound of this map? No, it's the song. So we'll have to see. But Acolyte is one of those maps. I say this every time, like, I say this on every map, it seems like. It's one of those maps. It's a map like this, and then I just don't go in the detail. Acolyte is a super defensive map. Any map where you can hardwall off and have a pocket expansion, This one's a little bit more vulnerable than the others because it's forward instead of behind the main base, but still. A Protoss player can just wall off the top of the ramp in 2 bases, essentially free. It's a huge commitment to be able to pressure them. Some Protoss players, myself, will get greedy enough and just take the front, and then suddenly 3 bases, and what would normally be protecting 2. I mean, the same can kind of be said for ZERG, but ZERG definitely can't take advantage of such choke points as well as a Protoss or a TERRAN. So for the first time, we see a gate expand, and this can end up being that Sky Toss game. Alright, this can be we're going to have 45 cannons, 20 oracles, transitioning into carriers with Storm, while a ZERG player struggles to get Infestor, Viper Queen, Corruptor, Broodlord bullshit, and put it all together and figure out exactly how to deal with this. We're going to find out if we get that far. What is this? I've never even... Is this like a... Anyways, that's not important. It's unrelated to anything. But it does look like Scarlett is opting for no quick third. Actually going to go for the queens first instead of going for a third base right off the bat. Does this mean anything? Is this going to transition to anything? We're going to find out. Alright, the Stargate opener to kick things off. Definitely not a surprise here on Acolyte. This is the bread and butter. This is the best build. Having a Stargate on this map is better than... There are no other maps in the pool that you can play this defensive. So a Stargate, the main vulnerabilities of going Stargate are just overwhelming attacks on the ground, especially early on. But on Acolyte, good luck with that. Alright. This Adept is 100% just get a beat on whether there's a third, ideally. Of course, Scarlett took the forward base, as is customary for ZERG players, just because you want to put as much forward you don't want to get contained early on, is what that means. Will he get it? Will he cancel? He doesn't cancel. Wait, he does cancel. Wow! He waited so long, he juked me. Like, he waited 0.1... They have to be on... They actually have special servers for tournaments, like stage matches, the majority of the time, where they have less latency than you do, like, on the normal server. So, but, like, he was so close to that shading through. The Oracle will be scouted out. There's a Void Ray follow-up here, and a second Stargate, and they will all be scouted by Scarlett. So... The jig is up. It's an Acolyte build. Neeb knows what he's about, and we know where this is going. 2 Stargates, and he's not making Oracles. He's making a Void Ray. Is this straight Turtle to Carriers? Oh, nope, he's making Oracles. I mean, why make 1 Oracle when you could have Moracles? And pretty soon he's going to have 4acles. And hopefully they're not Boracles. And then you guys, at this point, you probably want to show me the Doracle. That was, okay, I went too far. Or do you want more? But this, all right, let's talk about the Mass Oracle build. Why it's a thing, what it's good against, how to counter it, and what it's usually used for. This was, I'm going to say, popularized by Haz, because I want to give Haz as much credit as possible, even if it's not necessarily where credit is due. But it feels like a meme build, is what it feels like. Is he just going to... What? No, you can't do that. Okay, well, I guess he can't do that. He was going to try to dive on that. I don't know if he knew there were 3 queens there, but... It feels like a meme build, like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna continue making a bunch of oracles out of all of my Stargates, and that's it. That's my entire strategy. Just make a bunch of oracles. But guess what? It works. Because the way oracles work is when they have energy, they equip their weapon. It isn't direct spell damage like a Widowmine or Storm. They activate their Pulsar Beam, which does somewhere between a shit ton and a fuck ton of damage. Especially to light units. You know what a light unit is? Hydralisks. So pretty much against Oracles, you might think the counter is Hydras. The counter is not Hydras. The counter could definitely be Mass Queen into Corruptor, though, so that is a bit of a giveaway. Does he see the Spire? He does, off the edge of the Revelation. There you go. He definitely knows that's what's up. He's making Void Rays. The thing is, it's like, well, don't Void Rays get countered by Mutas? You know what counters Mutas way harder than Mutas counter Void Rays? Any amount of Phoenixes, especially when you're building them off 3 Stargates. So if Scarlett tries to go Mutas against this, by the time she actually gets across the map, then there will be like 7 Phoenixes out and the Mutas will do 0 damage and all die horribly. Speaking of dying horribly, 8 drones went down, but do we have the fancy... Wait, no, I don't have the fancy... I don't know how to do the fancy overlay. We do the fan. I don't. Never mind. I don't have the WCS thing though. So you can't. Well, she's going Mutas. Now, proving me wrong, right? But she's got to hide these. These are suicide Mutas, and they're just gonna try to get in where there are no cannons and is just no general defense. Thank you for the bits. These are not fighting Mutas. She's not going to try to track down the Oracles. I'd be surprised if she did. I think that would be a mistake. But these Mutas are to bait out Phoenixes, and it looks like she's going to sideswipe. She's going to step to the side real quick and go for Hydras. What's the worker count? 80 to 70. So we're at these high-powered economies, and it really... We're going deep, all right? This game really shouldn't end. The way... There are 2 ways this game could end before 200 supply. 1, Neeb tries too hard. How did he know? How did Neeb know? Does he have a tag on these? Did he? I have no idea how Neeb knew these Hydras were out here, but... I mean, these Mutas were out here, but he just had his Void Rays in position. I might have missed something. Maybe he flew over like a tagged unit or something like that. Or maybe he just has enough Void Rays, it doesn't matter. The Mutas will come in. The cannons are finally coming up. The Guardian Shields do affect air units, and they will reduce that range damage significantly. But back to what could end the game. If Neeb tries to take a 4th base without enough units and gets caught out of position, the Hydras can run him over. On the other side, if Scarlett tries to kill a 4th base, fails horribly, and doesn't have enough units, then the Sky Toss army rolls, or I guess kind of glides across the map relatively quickly, bringing about death and destruction in everything it touches. So those are the ways this game ends before 200, but I doubt either player will fully commit to a fight. They have to have too much respect for one another and these unit compositions. And I like how Neeb didn't get baited into going Phoenixes. A lot of players see Mutas and immediately are like, go Phoenix. I would have gone Phoenixes. Like, LOL, I'm going to counter the shit out of these Mutas. But Neeb was like, nope, don't really need Phoenixes. There's no way she's going to make more Mutas. And even if she did, it still wouldn't be a great counter. So just didn't even bite. All Void Rays and now carriers and cannons and all of that. Now, there are no carriers out yet. The mothership is far from done. So until Mama comes home, there is still vulnerability. There's a lot of sentries underneath. The force fields will slice up these Hydras real nicely. Scarlett just with that trademark creep spread across the map, just encasing the map in the creep. And I think she's given up on this point of any sort of real attack. She's kind of sitting down here. Honestly, these are almost throwaway Hydras here. But we're oh my god, 33 more drones! What? How many? I mean, spore crawlers are everywhere, so you need to replace them, but 103 drones! Now, a lot of those are gonna go into but still, though. Still 102 drones. I did the math. That's over half of her supply in drones right now. The fungal comes out. Is the fungal enough? There's not that many carriers. Do they have Graviton Catapult? They do, to launch those interceptors more quickly. But you still don't want to fight straight up. Those are +2. They have Guardian Shield. The mothership is on the way. Still 90 drones, but spore crawlers everywhere. Just, you need something more. Zerg units don't cut it. They do not cut it. As many Zergs have found in the past. You need something extra. And the spore crawlers could be that something extra. It's not that they do that much damage, but they're just more units to kill. They keep you alive a little longer to get more spells off, to kill more interceptors, all of that. Alright, the spore crawlers are being relocated. How is she setting up these hotkeys? Let's take a second. How is she setting up these hotkeys? Let's see how both sides are. It looks like the Hydras and the Overseers, I actually have unclickable, unfortunately. Is that just 17 infestors? How many infestors does she have? Are they all just on that one hotkey? She has 15 infestors. I'd imagine these 2 queens are with it as well. Or maybe, I don't know exactly. But she definitely has an infestor hotkey. I'm not sure what's popping out here. I think more infestors are what's being hotkeyed there. So, and there's some creep spread queens, I'd imagine. So right now she's got 95 drones. She's got all of the bases. We're looking at 22 spore crawlers. On the other side, Neeb is making 8 more cannons to complement 9. He is making +3 air and +1 armor for the air. Now, key, no storms yet. Here's the Templar. The revelations are going to be super important. So, if you control it perfectly, the Zerg army is actually more cost-effective than the Protoss army. I know that seems wrong to anyone who's been a Zerg player, especially fighting against, or even a Protoss fighting against a Zerg. But if you use your fungals, neural parasite, vipers potentially for abduct, spore crawlers, queens, and you get the right positioning and the right engagement, then the Zerg army actually is more cost-effective. But you have to be essentially a Zerg wizard, okay? And, well, we'll have to see. But that's what it's going to come down to, is the obligation is on Scarlett to nail these abilities at the right place at the right time. And Neeb, on the other hand, has to just make sure that doesn't happen. That's how it works. You don't hit enough neurals or fungals or abducts, then the momentum of the Death Fleet is just going to roll over. So I love this TERRAN music in the PvZ. Got carriers and infestors. Nice force fields. And Scarlett doesn't really have a bank yet, so that's actually like 20 supply of Hydras there gone. Ah, now they're more infestors. No observers with this, by the way. Will he use any revelations to clear creep tumors? He's just flying over. Scarlett sees all of this. Clearing these up. And there we go. The Vipers, the Corruptors, the pieces of the puzzles are coming together. Oh, but the neural you can oh. It went out of range at the last second. If you can neural parasite and use the revelation on the Protoss army, thereby revealing it all, even though it's cloaked. There's a lot of weird shit that could go down here. And it does come, it's a wizard's duel now. Okay. There is a revelation on all the infestors. Good fungals. Oh, stealing the void. Oh, the mothership steal! The steal! So many carriers are taken. She's stealing too much. There's some corruptors to do damage. Is it just the mass infestor? Is that enough? Well, you gotta fly over the spores and just dragging them back in, holding them down, and then knocking them out. What is happening? But it's still a lot of dead infest. It's real messy. And the Void Rays could be dragged. Well, they will be killed here at the last second. Watch out with them. Oh, Neeb with the target fire on the Viper. So, what is the units lost? Dead even. So, Scarlett got a lot of what she wanted there. But it's still very... a lot of infestors went down. There are 12 infestors left. I think a few of those just popped. At least double digits were killed in the battle, but there are 6 carriers in the mail. They're not here yet. They don't have Prime shipping. But if you do have Prime shipping, make sure to use that Amazon Prime, connect it to your Twitch account, and sub for free on any channel of your choosing. I have a few recommendations, but I'll keep them to myself. Alright. Oh, nice stasis ward there, but the infested Terrans are actually going to tank a lot of damage. The carriers are not there.
Your dedication
Thank
will
you.
be rewarded.
They're coming out. There's no storm. The storm was so important. I feel like Neeb, that's just a huge mistake to not have storm here.
Your dedication will be rewarded.
And now the corruptors are just coming in and killing everything. I don't... He just kind of needed storm. He needed storm. She just has too many. Wow, that's actually a huge mistake. Neeb finally showing some weakness in the late game.
Your dedication will be rewarded.
And yeah, I can't believe I thought he had storm. He got his Templar archives like 3 minutes ago, but he never researched storm from it. So that mistake is gonna cost him probably the game. He can potentially remax, but he can never really have the momentum he once did. Yeah, not researching storm is really bad here. He needed that so badly. That's the only way you clear up infested Terrans. That's the only way you really deal with corruptors and mass, because they can actually kill the carriers straight up if there's no storm. But thank you for those Prime subs, Art Gremlin, Space Weasel, and Fudge Nugget. I'm glad you enjoy. But Scarlett is obviously more comfortable in these later games. Neeb, his style is obviously just the really precise timings, the solid pressure, but the late game seems to be his weakness. He got some overseers coming in, contaminating. Those carriers are held up. It looks like they lost their baggage at the Stargate. And Neeb is just losing income. He doesn't have the gas. Scarlett, on the other hand, has more gas than OPEC at the moment. And Zerglings and Ultralists, you don't need that many. Once they get their upgrades, actually rip through buildings on their own. Thank you, Misa. This is pretty over, to be honest. Like, Neeb can hold on a little longer. But Scarlett has full momentum. What is the worker count? Still 73 probes, but even though Neeb is approaching 200 supply, there's no map control. Every time he's going to lose units, and he's going to lose some units. His Templar will be killed by the Lings and the Ultras before the Skytoss army can do enough damage. And he doesn't have the composition he wanted anymore.
Your dedication will be rewarded.
He doesn't, like, he has 2 carriers and 11 Void Rays. Void Rays are so, oh god, the fungal potential is so high. Because Void Rays all need to be stacked up. They need to align all their prismatics and shit. But in order to do that, they need to be near each other to maximize damage. If they're spread out, they'll get picked off. They don't have that much range. So this really heavy Void Ray composition is a poor stand-in for the carrier Templar. Maybe with a handful of Void Rays. It is a poor replacement, and it is so vulnerable to what Scarlett is super good at, which is hitting those key spells and abilities. Thank you, Keith C, as well, for that Prime sub. It's prime time, it seems. Alright. Oh my god! The counter revelation, I love it! That was some key neurals there, but there's not that many fungals. All the infestors have been neuraled as well. Nope, that's mine now. The Archon on the wrong side. This is kind of Neeb's shot here. I've been underselling Neeb a little, but it's so easy to lose this army. It is so easy. There's only 2 storms left. And if he doesn't storm the Corruptors, even against Void Rays... Oh, trying to snipe those Templar. The single key Templar at the back. Feedback's coming out. No storms. This army is so disjointed. There are Corruptors every which way. We got some Transfuses coming out. The Neural's on the other side. This fight is just a losing battle on every side here for Neeb. The Prismatics are aligned, though. And those Void Rays are ripping through the Corruptors. 3-3 is not quite done. And Neeb doesn't have much to follow this up. But if he can kill enough key bases in time, without the Prismatic alignment, the damage he does to these Corruptors is just so low. Even without the 3-3. The war of attrition seems like it will be won by Scarlett. Oh, Neeb lost this base, by the way. I think there was a Zergling run by. Not that that's important. GG, Neeb will finally tap out for what is one of the first and only times in this tournament, by the way. It was pretty obvious there that Neeb was not as comfortable in the late game as Scarlett. She seemed very ready. I'm sure she's had so many games, especially on Acolyte, that have gone that direction. Whereas Neeb is very used to just killing his opponents at some sort of set timing that he executes very perfectly. So, it's going to be 2-1. Going into the next match, Abyssal Reef. And the lack of storm. He needed storm. You need storm. It's simple.
Your dedication will be rewarded.
And you bad news, Bear 5. My sub as well. Thank you for joining us. This is actually Sub's Choice Hour, where you guys decided you'd like to see casting. Hopefully you're enjoying it. And we're going a little bit more in-depth into this matchup. What? That was the music, apparently. The boring starting music. But we're going into Abyssal Reef, and now this is Protoss's playground. And why? Let's just take a look at how the map is laid out. Neeb is already showing it off, but you have a relatively solid choke point here. You can just lock out. Technically, there are 2 entrances to your natural, but it's one of those, if you open this entrance, the emergency alarms will sound, the force fields will go up, and you'll probably be arrested for trespassing, and then he's going to take your ladder points. So... And Neeb actually with the Pylon Scout, or was that even pre-Pylon? I think it was Pylon Scout. But does show up in time to block a hatch first. So this really, on this map, taking a third base is one of the furthest away from your main. This is why a Pylon block, in general, is good on Abyssal Reef. It's already thrown Scarlett off. Because if you take the outside base, then 1 or 2 Adepts can come in, and good luck dealing with that with slow links. And even this left side third. Also, let's think about oracles as well. Getting queens together and consolidating them in order to be able to deal with any oracles is going to be a pain. So the block of an expansion makes a lot of sense, especially since Neeb... Whoa! What the fuck? Okay. All right. Well, this is an eye for well, I don't, a lot more than an eye. This is like a face. This is a... So, this is one response here. So Neeb will just add on a gateway, get the Zealot. This will slow down the expansion of Neeb. Is it worth it? The pool is already done. Scarlett's going for gas. I'm not sure who really comes out on top here. Neeb hasn't started his warp gate yet. Got canceled at the last second. The drone will make the run around. It will escape and prevent the Zealots from being able to come across any quicker. Now, Neeb has walled himself out of coming down this ramp, by the way. This is a hard wall. So no Zerglings can come up. Which means to get out of his base, he has to run all the way around. And he has now 2 Zealots, which is kind of awkward. 2 Zealots can pretty easily be countered, but they require a strong response. You can kill up to, well, depending on micro, you can kill up to 10 Zerglings, or a Queen and several Zerglings. It does depend on the Zergling and the Zealot micro. Of course, you throw some Adepts in here, and things get a little dicey. Scarlett does not have speed on the way. She has 160 gas. Was that just a mistake? Was she 50 gas behind and about 12, 13 seconds behind on speed? Just because she missed it? Because that really sucks. But speed makes a lot of sense here. But every second on speed is another little bit of harass from these Adepts and these Zealots. There's just not enough units to deal with it. The Slowlings are lucky to even touch the Adepts, alright? They're lucky to get a glimpse of them. Because they throw mad shade. Okay, are the Adepts trying to escape? They will. The Zealot's tanking a lot of the damage. And actually dealing a bit out. And Neeb is now going to find himself 6 probes ahead. Despite not having an expo, because he forced out so much larva and so many resources into the lings. You simply have to make the lings, which means you don't have the money or the larva for drones. That's it. Simple. Scarlett taking a third, the inner third base. Neeb has opted for the Twilight. Will we see a Dark Shrine? Because a Robo was on the way, which usually indicates a DT drop into Archon type of play. But no commitment yet on any of these points. There it is. You don't usually go for the Robo if you're going to go for Glaive to Depths. Just because you want to try to get a third base up a little bit quicker, and you don't need the Warp Prism in order to assist in their travel because they fly at almost literally light speeds. So usually the Twilight, then the Robo indicates a Dark Shrine, and eventually an Archon drop. Not always, but it's more likely than not. Alright, will there be a follow-up? I don't know. Neeb hasn't opted to add on glaives here. Maybe he's looking for that full double Archon because... Yeah, we're going to see here. The Dark Shrine will be scouted by Scarlett. The Zealots are being warped in, so... There shouldn't be a commitment to Glaive to Depths at all. And there should be enough money. You need 500, 500 for 4 DTs. 125, 125 on each one. Will this just be immediately Archons? Probably, right? No. I'm surprised at that. Because the Spore Crawler... Well, the Dark Shrine was scouted, but will this hit in time? He can go for the Spore. He's not going to go that deep, right? Oh, he gets them all out. You dirty, dirty Protoss. Everything Neeb does is dirty. In the best possible way. Just ask your mother. But he is a dirty boy. And I'm going to stop talking like that because it's getting weird. This is... just to say he does some of the things, he abuses the things that Protoss can do better than the other races. An example is Archon drops. Archon drops, you can't do drops like this because the pickup range of the Warp Prism allows for such maneuverability. Things like force fields allow you to control the battlefield at key timings even with smaller armies. Now, one way to not control the battlefield is to lose the Warp Prism, but he's not going to because the pickup range blocks off the Queens. Oh my god. Case in point. And now Scarlett, if she gets that Warp Prism, there's no more Warpins. These Archons are dead. There's no follow-up attack. But instead, the Warp Prism lives, adds another few Warpins. Remember, the third base is on the way. Neeb is already even on workers. And now the third base is under heavy fire. Oh god. And gonna go for the Spore as well. Looks like he'll get the hot pickup. Oh, there were a couple things that could have gone so much more right. If you get that Prism, that changes the entire game. That is the backbone of this entire build. You break that backbone, then you don't even need spines. But now another Archon drop, which can kill approximately infinity Zerglings. Neeb, no fear. He has 9 HP and no fucks on this Prism. He's even microing despite taking queen shots. Oh my god! You stop! Somebody arrest this man for something. I don't know. For public indecency. And now he's ahead on workers. He's going to have immortals. Even an observer coming up to kill creep with the Archons, which creep tumors as well are biological. Fun fact. So they only take a couple hits. Any force field's going to be used. The Zerglings will make a little bit of a run by, but they're just going to keep on sprinting. Or not. They should have run a little bit. They did not run. And they're too far away at all. But now Scarlett going for the 4th, but the worker count and just the unit composition and the supply, if you look at it, tells the entire story. This has just been Neeb. Whenever he's used these ground units, whenever just... He doesn't let his opponents get to wherever they want to be. We don't see him take a fair fight, because why would you ever take a fair fight if you wanted to win? And you gotta respect that. The force fields will lock it in. That's 4 Archons in there. Just, these units are not in position to deal with it. He can break his own force fields when he's ready with the Archons. Punches through, and that's going to be a decisive 3-1. And just a masterclass by Neeb, once again, on exactly how to pull that off. An ounce of luck, but a gallon of skill. Or should I say, a milliliter of luck, but a bigger liter of skill. Okay, that doesn't sound as fun. But, like a decaliter. I don't know if anyone ever used it. Anyways, but it's just disgusting how he's figured out these matchups. And Zerg players, I'm sure across the world, look at this and say, but how? And I'll remind you, there are 5 Zergs in the top 8 outside of Korea. And there's 1 Protoss. But that 1 Protoss stands far ahead of anyone else. What will Neeb be doing at BlizzCon? That's the question. He's there. And he, honestly, if they just went by whoever won WCS, he could be there like 3 times. But we'll have to see how he stacks up. He's won Korean tournaments before. Well, tournament. Is this the year of Neeb? We're going to find out in November. But it's fun to break that down. That was from DreamHack Montreal. For those of you who missed it, in October of 2017. Nope, not October. It's September, and it happened. September. That's the one. But thank you for watching that. Thank you, subs, for choosing casting. I enjoyed that. I hope you guys did too. I didn't watch those games when they were live. That was my first time watching them. I watched most of Neeb's other games. But thank you guys for choosing that. And, of course, we reached the sub goal. Thank you, Zonic.
Will be rewarded.
212.
Thanks to